Hi everybody, I'm Jimmy and welcome back to Jimmy Does Knitting. This is my knitting podcast where I talk about what I want. It's usually a topic, it doesn't follow your regular format, and we get into it. And today the topic is fingering weight whips. So if you are not interested in this topic, I have plenty of other videos with plenty of other topics. Everything is going to be listed in the show notes, patterns, yarns. I'm going to have some timestamps, so if you're not interested in one project, you can go to the next. Yeah, I am Jimmy Does Knitting on Ravelry and Instagram, also on Discord. I don't know, I haven't really been using Discord. I've just been using it for some test knits, but I don't know. Reach out to me maybe? Who knows? We'll see what happens with that. Yeah. So as I said, today is fingering weight whips. I have 3 projects to show you. I thought I was maybe going to have a 4th, but you'll see that later, and we'll discuss that later. But very exciting stuff has been happening over here. I released the Dazzle Camel Cap. The Troy Boy is in testing. If you still want to test it, you are welcome to join. There are a bunch of options, so like the more testers, the merrier. The time's getting a bit shorter, but I can crank out a sweater in 4 weeks. This will come out probably around 8 weeks with left to the test. So if you want to join, I know on my Instagram the form is still there, but I'll post it with this video too. Very exciting. It just started to me yesterday, to you guys probably a week, 2 ago. I'm not really quite sure. It is sunny today, which is rare in Amsterdam, and it's not freezing, so it's really nice. It is cold up here, so I'm wearing a thick sweater. I just got done with my sculpt class for today. I tried to do bar once a week to supplement my yoga and to get swole. And and then that. I really been trying to get in shape again. I really had a hard 2023. I've been sick, or I've gotten tattoos, or the yoga studio closed down, or something, and it hasn't been as consistent as I like. But these last couple of weeks have been like boom, boom, boom. We're back into the intermediate series of Ashtanga during Mysore, so that's exciting. We've got to get in shape for the Knitting OnlyFans. One day we will do that. I might even give you some feet there. Who knows? We'll see. But jokes, maybe not. Anyway, we are here for knitting. As I said, we're going to discuss 3 projects. They're all over here next to me. And yeah, I'm not a big fingering weight yarn type of guy. I just never really have been. I don't knit socks, so I don't have those like hand-dyed, one-of-a-kind skeins. But I've just been into it lately. So the Dazzle Camel Cap that I designed, you can check it out on Ravelry, go buy it, is just a Mondim. I love Mondim. I love Retrosario, Rosa Pumar. They're so great. They're so friendly. Like, I went to the store. It's great. I've interacted with them online. They're super nice. Highly recommend all of their yarns. I really like what they're doing. But anyway, I was obsessed with the Mondim. So I knit a couple things out of that. And then it just kind of like happened again and again. Like, my Holst was there calling for me. And then over yonder in the distance, my local yarn store is Stephen and Penelope. So they have, of course, they're known for their shawls, so they have a ton of fingering weight yarn, and I was just like, do we explore? Do we contact them? And the answer was yes. So let us get into this. All of these projects are knit on 3.5 millimeter needles, and I just want to say that, like, I'm sort of in this in-between half thing. I learned to knit when I lived in Europe, so all the things are like centimeter cables or millimeter needles, so I don't know the US equivalents, but I was like a draftsman for a long time at the beginning of my architectural career. I don't work as an architect anymore, but I did, and so like everything to me is in inches and stuff, so I have this weird half combination of like this and that sort of thing. Not really quite sure, but that's what's happening here. Is I'm a woman of the world, and we're gonna get into it. Before we do, what am I wearing? It's cold up here in this attic of mine, so I am wearing a thick jumper. This is one of the first Jimmy jumpers this was not meant for me. I actually made this for Mr. Does Knitting. It is a heavily modified classic jumper by Knitwits and Yarns. So it's just like a standard drop shoulder construction on his pattern. What he does is he does that Australian thing where he calls worsted weight Aran. So I bought Aran weight yarn, not knowing any better. Like, this is really, I think, like the third jumper I maybe made. So I didn't modify any patterns. I just sort of like bought what they suggested and like went from there. And I like didn't know any wiser. Like, I did a gauge swatch and I was like, yeah, this will work, right? I was so wrong. I was so wrong. So anyway, this does not fit Mr. Does Knitting, but it was made to his specifications. This is some sort of like loosely spun thing that I got from Hobie. I don't remember what it is anymore. It's in black and like natural. I made it striped. The jumper's not actually striped. And then Mr. Does Knitting wanted like a split hem. I don't know if you can see that. Split hem. So I did a little bit of a split hem, and I did alternating stripes every 6 inches or so. I think that's like 12 centimeters or something. So that's what I did. It's really warm. It's nice. It's like not my typical black. I ended up making Mr. Does Knitting. I just drafted one. I bought some drops cotton merino, drafted essentially the same thing, different construction slightly, and he wears that. It's fine. But now we sort of have matching jumpers. Either way, it's warm. I like it. It's an oldie. The pattern is pretty straightforward. It's all right for like a basic men's piece jumper. I'd recommend it. Yeah. So let's get into it. We will start, because I've been talking about the Troy Boy a lot. Let's start with it. So this is being knit. I knit one already. I knit it in Mondim in the color black, and I knit the fancy version. And the fancy version is fancy because it has on the seam right here, there's like a purl detail, and then I have some cabling that runs into the hem, and then that runs into the cuff. So the Troy Boy is my design that's in testing now. It is a top-down drop shoulder sweater. It's sized for men or like male identifying people. I think menswear has a little bit of room to grow in the knitting world. So I wanted to make like a top-down drop shoulder. I like a drop shoulder because it has a little bit more structure, and I know that top-down will sell. I think honestly, at the moment, I'm a bit more team seam, but this is what we're going with because it's commercially more viable if I want to sell things. But anyway, it's a lovely thing. I made one for myself already, and I'm going to make another one in the basic version. So the fancy version has these like twisted stitches that form these cables that go down. The basic version just has the purl seam, and use that as a datum, and it's super simple. So the pattern has an option for a folded or unfolded neckline, like the fancy or unfancy, and then optional shaping if you want to have more of a V shape or not. So this is being knit out of West Wool Bicycle in Dutch Sky. So this was actually gifted to me by Stephen and Penelope. When I went over there, I was like, hey, do you guys want to give me yarn for this design? And they're like, sure. So that was very lovely of them. I really appreciate it because I am po folk. But I was gonna knit this anyway out of this yarn. Going to be honest, it was always going to be knit out of Bicycle. I will say this is a little thicker than the Mondim, so they were having to play with things a little bit, but it's a really lovely yarn. They had their relaunch, and I will say it's a bit like fluffier and like bigger than it was before they did the relaunch. But I mean, the yarn quality is great. I think it's fairly affordable in front. Anyway, this is the yarn. It was gifted. Thank you very much. And I have started the Troy Boy. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a tutorial with everything as we go through it. So I'm in a good spot for a tutorial stopping point. But I want this to be like a basic staple for your closet. I just want it to be like a simple, possibly like advanced beginner, like adventurous beginner first project, maybe second sweater project. And I wanted to do the video to take you through it. So we're going to see how the quality plays out. I'm really trying, but like I have really tricky lighting in my house. It's like very difficult, partially because of the paint, but like the orientation to the sun and like, anyway. So I've been trying to supplement with lights and tripods, but we'll get to it. Anyway, I finished the back yoke. And so I've given, I have a long tail cast on, I do the increases, and I talk about this on a tutorial, and I just knit the back. It's not that exciting. It's the trapezoid and then down into the split of the pit. The yarn is actually really quite nice. I like it. I'm knitting the size 4, and ultimately this will be given to my dad, which I think is really kind of cool because this is like yarn from where I am now and a design that I made, and it's in Dutch Sky, but the name is Troy Boy, and Troy is where I'm from. And so like an Amsterdam yarn and color going back to Troy. They don't live in Troy anymore, but that I think is really kind of cool. I think it's nice, and also it's like a great excuse to knit a sample that somebody will wear and enjoy. I mean, I want to make him something in red. He just wants gray things, which is, we'll make gray things, it's fine. But yeah, so I mean, there's not a lot to show. I mean, it's slightly see-through, I guess. But yeah, this is the back. I did steam block it so I could take pictures. This is just stockinette knitting so far, and it was really, really curly. So it maybe looked about this big, like earlier. And yeah, but we'll do that. I'll take pictures of the different steps and how we go through it, as well as the video tutorial. Thank you to all the testers that are there and watching this. I'm really excited to see the projects that come out of this, because it's like a simple garment. I think it's really approachable, and I think it's really customizable. So there are the customizable options. I think it's just like easy to make. Like I knit this in 2 nights, and like this is a night knitting, not like my unemployment like day knitting, whatever. This is just 2 nights. It goes super fast, even though it is fingering weight, and you can use, because it's a simple design, you can use like any yarn you want. You can use like something hand dyed, or you know, a tonal. I mean, you can stripe it, whatever you so choose. I think that the yarn choices and then the different modification options could really make some interesting combinations. So that is the Troy Boy, and we are very excited about this. Keep an eye out on my Instagram. I'll be updating you for every step, and yes, very excited. Next, we have something on the floor. We'll pull it out right here. It is in my one project bag that I have. The rest I use are just like tote bags, or like the big baskets that you saw, which were, Mr. Does Knitting used to work at Anthropology. The store closed, and they had like these shopping baskets, and so we inherited a couple, because he's like, why don't you put your things in here instead of on the floor? It's like, okay, fine. But I am knitting the Culm, C-U-L-M, by Fiona Ellis for Brooklyn Tweed, and I am crunching all of this stuff. It's knit in Kinross 4-ply, color 17, color black. Let me pull one out. Now, I've been influenced by the UK knitters, and they're always like, this softens up so great, it's so wonderful, you have to get it. So my in-laws are British, and for Christmas I asked for 7 skeins, which is what it called for in the pattern, and we'll see if it takes 7 skeins. I thought I'd for sure run out. Now I'm not convinced. We'll see. Anyway, it's supposed to soften up wonderfully. It's Kinross floor, Kinross. I say Kinross, but it's Kinross 4-ply. It comes in these 50-gram skeins. It's super fine lamb's wool, so it's like very low micron count. It's by We County Yarns, and this is, yeah, it's color 17 black. And I'm really curious about this. So like, I'm not sold on it in terms of I'm going to import this from the UK often, because quite often it's not the shipping that bothers me, it's the import tax is quite high here, and I don't want to pay the import tax on top of taxes that I've already paid for things. So it's a nice yarn. It's really cool. They have a great hand feel. I think it knits up okay, and then when you block it, it's really nice. So last time I showed you, we talked about a bunch of stuff, but let me give you a quick peek of where I am. I have the front finished, and I'm working on the back. So let's see if I can do this in a way that doesn't look crazy. So here we are. It looks like it has like a very large neckline, which I'm a little concerned about, and we're gonna definitely close in with a tighter neck rib. We're gonna make sure that that's nice and tight. But last time I was at a point where I blocked it. So where was that? I was just here. I was here and down, so this is bottom up. So I was about here, and then I've knit the whole front piece, and then I've just started the back piece last night. It has this beautiful textured part on the front. Let's see if you can see it better there. And then the rest is just seed stitch, and it has this really nice hem that I enjoy. So that is the thing with this. I've looked at this pattern for a while, and I was like, it's beautiful, I need it, let's go. And here's where we need to talk about kind of where I want to take the channel in 2024 and what's happening. So I don't think my content is tremendously relatable to a bunch of people. I knit what I want. I don't knit trendy things. Also, I'm like a male knitter, and that has some things to do with it. But like in general, I don't think it's necessarily, although production value does have some things to do with it. Also, like, you don't have to be a good knitter to have like a big following or anything. And so I do have a little bit of a different niche. Like I knit a lot in black, and I knit like what I want. And all my videos are not, finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions. They're just whatever I'm talking about. And lately it's been fingering weight yarn. Been obsessed. It's been great. And I think that I'm not a relatable person, right? Like, so that's probably going to still continue to be a thing. But what also needs to happen is I think I need to explain myself a little bit more, because I, one, do techniques that people are scared of, and I think that they're super easy, so I need to make it more approachable. And two, I think that there's something to be said for menswear and modifying menswear and creating menswear within the hand knit community that's like underrepresented. And I don't want to be like a meninist, and like also a lot of these things go for other bodies, because everybody has a different body, whether you're male identifying or not. Like I have really slouchy shoulders. Like I look great in a yoked sweater, but I also like a drop shoulder because it gives me some like an angle to it, sort of thing. So it's whatever. Everybody has different bodies. Everybody does different things. But I think there's sort of like a unspoken men's wear fit challenge thing. And this sweater is a perfect example of that. So let's get into it and what I did and how you can do these really easy things to make this fit. So let's start with the cast on. So the cast on was supposed to be, first of all, I was a bad knitter. Did I do a gauge swatch? No, because I was supposed to have like the exact amount of yarn that I needed, and I didn't want to import any and like wash it and get it, whatever. I didn't do it. I knew that I was not going to knit it on a needle size smaller than 3.5 millimeters, and so I assumed that whatever their gauge was, I'd be pretty close. I'm usually pretty close to gauge. I'm either slightly tighter, slightly looser, depending on the stitch. It doesn't matter. But so the gauge swatch did not happen. What I did was I knit until the first ball of yarn, which was last podcast, and I blocked it. And this yarn, by the way, blocks out beautifully. It's really wonderful. It really filled in. I thought it was kind of gappy, and I was a little concerned when I was knitting it up, but now that it's been blocked, I think it's really nice. So there are a couple modifications. Sometimes I just modify things, and sometimes it needs to happen. So the ribbing and like the hem with this eyelet texture and the ribs is really beautiful, but it was supposed to be knit on a smaller needle and flat. And the circumference of the stuff with the smaller needle, according to the pattern, was smaller than my like actual waist. I don't have a very big waist, but it was smaller than my actual waist. And so I went and I just used the 3.25 millimeter needle, because I figured the body's going to be that size, it will fit. Looking back and knowing what I know now, probably should have gone down, just because I do think that it would help with the shaping a little bit, because I'm not putting any shaping into this. And so I just did that, and I cast on in the round instead of knitting everything flat. So it just has a round bottom instead of like a split hem that was supposed to be in the back. That's fine. And then I knit, you're supposed to increase gradually. So like I knit in the round until I ran out of the first ball of yarn. Then I blocked, and that was my swatch. So I was knitting the smallest size, which is a 42 inch, maybe a little bit more, but I knew that in seed stitch, my gauge grows. So it's essentially like the 1x1 rib with the 1x1 rib like staggered over on top. And I know that my gauge really grows, and it said like X amount of stitches for that. And so I knew that that's more than I normally cast on for my size, for like more than I would get me 42 inches. That would probably get me like 46, 48 inches circumference with the amount of stitches that I need to build up to. So I wanted to check before I really increased any to see what my gauge was. And the answer is I didn't need to increase anymore, because the stitch count plus the seed stitch that like blows up a little bit really made it like the exact size that I wanted. So I hope that made sense. So I knit in the round, I figured out my gauge, and then I'm not casting on any more stitches. So like I basically am off pattern right now in terms of stitch count. And because this is the width I already want, I'm just knitting up until the split, or I did knit up until the split straight, because I didn't want any more stitches, so it is flat. So that's what I did. This part here on the bottom is just knit. So I knit it longer as well, because I know I've knit enough sweaters now to know my preferred measurements. So my preferred measurements are about a 10-inch yoke depth, and then like 16 inches on the body-ish. That's what I prefer. So in addition to not doing any shaping, I knit the body length to 16 inches instead of like, I don't know, let's say 10 is what they had. But I know that in the pattern, the yoke depth was what I wanted. So that's one thing. And then I just went for the smallest size collar. Believe it or not, this is the smallest collar. It will cinch in with the ribbing. But I went with the smallest size collar, and then because it's, there's no shoulder shaping, and it's a 3-needle bind off, which is why these stitches are on hold. I ignored, I didn't have to do this. I just had to use the collar instructions and figure out where to place my markers, which was essentially the same X amount of stitches in the center, and I didn't have to count, the numbers on either side were different, but the instructions essentially for the collar were the collar instructions, so that's fine. Another thing that I've done is the yoke depth, I will say, was what I wanted it to be. So I followed the instructions for size 3 for that yoke depth to get me what it was. So like collar size 1, cast on size 1, yoke depth size 3. But yeah, I really like it. It is a sort of fast knit. It is textured knit, but it's not tremendously slow. You do have to pay a little bit of attention. Oh, I know what I was going to say. With women or female identifying people, quite often they need more room in the front than in the back. So I did recalculate the stitches and where they go and how many, because there was a considerable amount more stitches on the front than in the back of the pattern to accommodate things filling up the front, let's say. And I've got nothing here, nothing. So what I did is, and I slouched a little bit, so actually the back needs a little bit more for me, but I just split it in half. So I took whatever number I had, I split half for the front, half for the back. So the motif I made sure was in the center like the central panel was in the center, but like the numbers of stitches on the front and the back and for like on the sides of the motif are not to pattern whatsoever. So these are the modifications I've made to this. It takes a little bit of brain power, but once you have to do these things over and over and over again, because the pattern's just not made to fit your body, you get used to it and you get quick at it. So that is what I did with this one. I'm quite happy with it so far. It's going to block out beautifully. Right now it looks a little bit like sheer, I think. But I'll just knit the back. I'll do a 3 needle bind off for the shoulders, which I think is what it calls for in the pattern. I really like that because it has, this is like my favorite garment construction, is just like bottom in the round, split for the front, split for the back, like a really solid sewn sort of thing at the shoulders, and then sleeves top down. Like that's my preferred way of knitting things. So yeah, we'll just go for it. I just have the back. This is a good project to have in between the Troy Boy, because the Troy Boy I'm having to stop and start at certain points just so I can like wait for light to take pictures or to film or do something with. So this has been a good project to have on the needles for that. So these are not all my WIPs, but most of my WIPs. I don't have a lot going on, so they need sort of like varying levels of things. And this is a good, when I'm not working on the Troy Boy, I'll go with this, and then Troy Boy, and then we'll see. So this is the Culm and the Kinross 4-ply, and those are the modifications I made. If you have any questions about like how to modify or like the modifications, or like how I came up with some of these ideas, I don't know how clear my things are coming off of, how clear my ideas are coming out, but I think that these things are really important to talk about, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about it, especially for male knitters. So feel free to ask me things in the comments or on my Instagram, and then maybe we do a video about like how to modify garments for better fitting for the man in your life, whatever. I'm going to take a drink out of my cabbage mug, and I will be right back with the last one. I have one more project to talk to you about, and I'm obsessed. Like, I really have been knitting on this. Look, if you're concerned about tangled yarn and messiness, this is going to give you an absolute conniption fit, but I love this. I really love this. Let me see if I can show you as much as I can. But this is my Woven Warmth shawl by Nancy Marchant. I've heard interviews where she and the host have pronounced it different ways, so I don't really even know. But it's this like woven knitting thing that she has going on. And it is so much fun. It has that stripe thing, you know, when you knit stripes and you're like, ooh, I can't wait for the next one. Ooh, I can't wait for the next one. It has that vibe to it. This is, I'll show you the back because it's also an educational piece. It's in Tarsha, so I don't use bobbins or anything. I use just like yarn or whatever, and then there are all these scraggly bits of different ends. But it's an intarsia piece. I would say this is not hard. It looks quite impressive. It's not hard. I'm really enjoying it. I really like this. I have a feeling by the next time that I show you this, it will be done. I'm not so far away. I'm not so far away from being done on this. But now the rows are taking quite a long time because you know you get to the wide part of the shawl and it just takes forever. And you have to, you know, some rows you have to deal with all of these colors, so it takes a bit of time. But here's what I did. I took 8 colors of Holst Supersoft in light neutral and yellow colors. So I've like maxed out their light neutral and their yellow colors, and I have gone in on this piece. I think all the colors are there, and I have just like balls and balls and balls of yarn in here. Some are being used quite a lot, some are not. Like I still have this whole unopened thing of oat, but I've used some other stuff. This is a good piece because this could be a really good stash buster. I think I did order yarn for this, I'm not going to lie, but I had a gift certificate and I spent like shipping, which was like €8 or something. So I did order yarn, but I do think that I'm going to be a net loss of yarn. Like I use up more yarn than I buy for this project. I'm hoping that's the case at least. I'll weigh it at the end and try to figure it out, but we're going to be close, I think. We're going to be really close, which is nice because my next video we're going to discuss all of the yarn in my stash and what in the world am I going to do with it. But yeah, but I mean, this is really nice. Let's go over some of the colors, shall we? So what I did is I did 1 through 8 in it's like neutral yellow, neutral yellow, neutral yellow. And then, so I have 4 neutrals, 4 yellows. And then I did from the center 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then each one of those has 3 rows, which you can see here. So like, where are we at the center? So the center is here. So it's the pineapple color of 3 rows, and then it's flanked by 2 rows of the nougat color. Then we have old gold, bleached white, sunrise. This is the oat color, and then the maize. And the background is ecru. Oh, wow, look at me. I'm very proud of myself for that. Yeah, and I'm just chugging through. What I like about this is a couple of different things. Is one, it's turning out to be like really like squishy and like floofy and like textured, which is nice. And I know that once you block Holst Supersoft, it turns into something else. Like it is wonderful and beautiful. I would say it's not super soft. If you're looking for that like merino close to skin, like if you're used to superwash yarn, it's not going to be it, but it's also really quite nice. Also, with Intarsia, the way that the colors change without having a hole is you literally like wrap one over another. So you have this sort of thing happening at every color change. And what that ends up doing is it makes the fabric a little heavier, and I'm not mad at it. Holst Supersoft is actually quite light. It's woolen spun. I always get woolen and worsted spun mixed up, but it's just like, it's nothing. There's like not a tremendous amount of twist in it. It's just light. It has a lot of air in it, and it just forms this great project. I love this. I don't know who's going to wear it, when it's going to be done. I'm obsessed with this. Like, this is the one that I actually want to talk about the most, but I don't really know what to say aside from that. I'm just going to alternate colors, and do that. So in terms of how my yarn management is, it looks scarier than it really is. I just I pull out like 3 arm lengths. Now I'm doing 2 because I'm near the end. And then just leave them dangling. Sometimes I'll like knot them up, if I can show you. Sometimes I'll like knot them up like this. But otherwise, sometimes it's just like loose. And that way I can just pull them through. I don't think that bobbins work for me because they unravel too much and then it actually gets more tangled. And for other people, it works great. For Nancy, she's like a bobbin lady. And then there's also this like butterfly thing that you can do, which I've tried, and it just always ends up falling out, which makes things more tangled. So the couple arm lengths of stuff is fine because you can just pull it through. Like, is that the best solution? I'm unclear. Does it work for me the best? Yes. So that's what we're going with, and that's how we're doing the Intarsia. As I said, I'm in my Intarsia era. I think I need like an Intarsia project on the needles at all times because I love it. I think it's great. I think that there's like a gap in the market. Unless you look at like 90s children's patterns, there's just not enough Intarsia. So please do more Intarsia and give me ideas for Intarsia, because I do have a couple of ideas in mind actually, but yeah. So anyway, this is the woven warmth. The stitch is making it like pop. At first I was really spreading it out so it will lie a little flatter, but I kind of like the gatheredness and the way that the fabric kind of, and the way that you knit them and you slip the Intarsia in the back, that it makes it pop out a little bit. I know that when I wash it, it will flatten out. Now, when that happens, I'm totally going to show you a before and after, because this will transform. This will be something completely different, and it will be wonderful. But yeah, that's my Woven Warmth. I just love it. I love it. I love working on it. I know that I normally work in black. I'm not opposed to color. I just don't like wear color. So if I want something to be worn, it needs to be made for somebody else, or I have to be comfortable with like this, of just putting it in my giveaway bin and doing all that. Anyway, I think that's it. I'm looking on the ground. I don't have anything more for today. There will be some fingering weight whips coming up that are new. When we get to that, I think I need to clear a couple things off my needles first, and then we'll be there. Thank you for joining. I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Tell me about your fingering weight whips at the moment. I'm very curious. How can I use all my stash? How can I do all of this? Please like, subscribe, comment. I love the comments. More comments, please. Tell your mama. That's great. And yeah, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll see you in another 2 weeks. Talk to you later. Bye.